Hey guys, it's Jess here. This is going to be my instant match reaction for Arsenal 6, West Brom nil for our second round Carabao Cup match. Um, Obviously played at the Hawthorns. We played away from home. From where I was sitting, the atmosphere looked really good. Um, I guess what I'll start out with is, this will probably be a little bit shorter just because I think um, although the score line is really, really good, I am not going to overplay it, but I'm also not going to underplay it. I've caught some flack a little bit online about maybe not being overly positive about this result, and it's West Brom and a heavily rotated West Brom side as well. So although the score line is really nice and some of the goals that we scored, I think it's not really about the result for me. It's about some of the performances that are positive for us moving forward in our season in the Premier League versus, wow, this was such a good performance from a team perspective, because I do think that there were some flaws, and I'll explain that. So, obviously, heavily rotated squad from West Brom, very, very strong, almost like you could see most of those people starting, most of our players starting for Arsenal. Aubameyang starts, Odegaard, Saka, Pepe, El Neni, who has started games for us in the Premier League, Granit Xhaka. Besides said Kolasinac, he's probably in Tavares. Those are two of the only players that you can really say that probably wouldn't be playing. So let's just keep it a little bit in perspective that they played basically academy kids for West Brom at that, and we played almost our, like, I would say, if on strength, that's probably about 75% our strongest lineup. So I thought at the beginning of the game that we looked really shaky. And I see this often when we play teams that are not really up to our level. We tend to be really shaky in the beginning of the game. I thought some of our passing out of the back was really diabolical from just some players. Rob Holding, Granite looked a little bit shaky, Chambers in particular, and they put Ramsdale under some pressure. So I would like to see us against lower level opposition, or seemingly lower level opposition, to go into the game a lot more confident. We always seem a little bit shaky when we play against these teams. It cleaned up a little bit, and the first goal, I think, took some of the pressure off. The first goal from Aubameyang, the tap in after Bukayo Saka's shot. And then we started to kind of pass with a little bit more authority, and we gained a lot more joy in that game. The first 20 minutes was very much so West Brom feeling like they could get at us, pressing us, bullying us, and us caving to that. And at some point, Arsenal need to understand that nobody really respects us anymore. So at the beginning of the game, you have to be willing to compete. And I think that we give away a little bit of that in the beginning because we're so desperate to play our game. And sometimes you just got to keep it simple and compete a little bit. That being said, once we got the first goal, we were pretty much in cruise control from there. I do think a lot of the game plan was get it to Saka, let him progress it, and make a decision from there. That's dangerous because in the Premier League, Saka will get kicked to death. But Bukayo was far and beyond, for me, our most influential and best player. Of course, Aubameyang got a hat trick, but Bukayo was dropping deep in between the lines, turning and making really good decisions on the ball. He looks a lot sharper than he did against Chelsea, which is really good to see. And once again, he's our brightest player, and that's something that we've seen in the past. So I really like Bukayo's performance today, and I think it's no surprise that he's so important to us. Dropping in between the lines like that was really dangerous, and I like that about him. Aubameyang is somebody that we're looking at. We need him to be good. We need him to be sharp. We need him to be engaged. He was that today. His runs off the ball were really, really lethal. Again, context, West Brom, heavily rotated squad, but we've seen him have that lethal movement in the past. So I'm very happy to see this Aubameyang. There was a smile on his face. He looked light, and I worried for him after being, 6 months having malaria and some sort of COVID issue. For him to look the way that he looked today, he scored three completely different goals. The last one being very vintage Aubameyang off of the left-hand side. I thought really bodes well for our season and makes me feel a lot more confident that we can go into the season with him. Because with Aubameyang, it's not really the level of competition. I think our team and squad let him down when we play better opposition. It's not about him. He's a world class finisher. So knowing that he's going to make the runs and his movement is going to be great, it's up to us to get him the ball. So I really liked his performance as well. Martin Odegaard, I think, showed why we need a player of his technical quality in our midfield. We just lack it. As good as Emil Smith Rowe is with the connecting and the 1-2 passing and the, kind of popping around the pitch, creating overloads in wide spaces and turning the corner and creating cutbacks. I think Odegaard is more of a passer and he's more of a controller in our midfield. And if we want to continue to play this possession-based style, we definitely need a controller. And he did well deep. He did well progressing the ball. He had some really nice passes, in particular the one for Bukayo Saka for his goal was astounding. It was very, very nice. And so I think we see why we needed Odegaard. We need a player like him in our team. And I think he was definitely he was class today. There's nothing you really can take away from that. So pretty much I've mentioned Bukayo Saka, Aubameyang, and Odegaard, who I think were what I was looking for was to see which of our players looked like this was way too easy for them. Because for me, the majority of our squad being 75% of as strong as we could potentially be, I was looking for people to look like this is too easy, stroll in the park, way above the levels. And those three in particular were very much that. I would add Ramsdale in there as well. Then you had Granit and Pepe, who I think struggled a little bit more. Pepe, for me, as good of the positions that he gets into and as dangerous as he could be, his finishing is not as good as I would like it to be. I think he had 2 chances to score. He could have had a hat trick and he didn't get that. Maybe that's me being harsh, but for somebody who one of our main criticisms for him has kind of been about his lack of finishing and end product, I am going to be a little bit more harsh on him. So I think he was just a step below the other players that I mentioned before. And then Granit, he kind of controlled the midfield, but he was a little bit slow in his decision making. I saw Bukayo get angry with him with one of the balls that he could have passed over the top. He just takes a little bit too long. And as you move further back into the pitch, you got into players that looked like they belonged at that level. And that may sound harsh, but we know that Chambers, Holding, said Kolasinac in particular, are not up to the level. So they looked, especially in the beginning where we didn't have control, they looked like players that could be playing at that level. And that's really the issue with Arsenal Football Club. So from an Aubameyang, Odegaard, Saka standpoint, that was a very, very good showing. Showed that was way above their level and bodes well for our season moving forward. For some of the other players, you can kind of see that quality is a real issue. So having Gabriel come back, have White coming back, having Thomas come back, have Sambi back in the team, those things are going to make a difference. Tavares, what I want to say about him is that I saw a lot of harsh criticism about Tavares. We already knew that he was raw. A lot of the analysis about him has been very talented, very raw, and we definitely saw that throughout this game. But I would choose him 100 times over a Bertrand, because if you can just clean up that diamond a little bit, just polish him off a little bit, I think he can be really, really dangerous. And for a team that lacks athleticism and dynamism, I think he can add that for us. So although I do think that he had some rough patches, and in particular, he was kind of like slipping a lot, I do think that there's something there. And that was a good decision by the club not to go in the Bertrand direction and to go into that direction. I think he's going to be a good player for us in the future. So 6-0, that's what we should be doing, but nevertheless, I'm glad it happened because we know what the alternative was and it wouldn't have been good. So that's pretty much my analysis. Nothing too special there, just Arsenal taking care of business as they should. So my name is Jessica. You can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho, and she knows Arsenal. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.